Welcome everybody. My name's David Wood. I'm a Director of Humanity Plus. We're welcoming you to this first European Humanity Plus Hangout on Air, where we're going to have people representing different groups throughout Europe talking about what's happening in transhumanist circles that they know about. So to start off with, I'm going to share a few slides very quickly that's going to set the scene for what we're going to be looking at. Now, in case anybody's not sure if they are in the right meeting, you're wondering what transhumanism is, I'll very briefly mention from the Transhumanist FAQ, which is on the humanityplus.org website, the definition that transhumanism is a way of thinking about the future that is based on the premise that the human species in its current form is not the end of our development, but rather a comparatively early phase. In other words, we expect a lot of evolution of the human condition to take place, guided in an intelligent and thoughtful way. There's a slightly longer quote based on this statement by the philosopher Max Moore, who said that transhumanism is a class of philosophies of life. It's not just one particular philosophy, it's a variety of philosophies of life. And indeed, the people on this call, I'm sure if you put many questions to us, we will differ in some of our responses. But at the same time, there are things that unite us, and what does unite us is this view that we seek the continuation and acceleration of the evolution of intelligent life beyond its currently human form and human limitations by means of science and technology, guided by life-promoting principles and values. So in the next 90 minutes, we're going to hear from transhumanist groups throughout Europe, talking about the meetings that some of them have organized. That's face-to-face meetings in some cases. In other cases, it's online activities via Facebook or otherwise. In some cases, groups have been involved in campaigns or projects on activities such as life extension, mind training, and so forth. More important in a way is what we might be doing next, not just what we're doing already, but what we can look ahead to, either as individual groups or through improved collaboration, either through joint activities in which groups in different parts of Europe are working together, or sharing best practice in which we learn what has worked in one group and may work in another group. And so the agenda for these next 90 minutes, we're going to start by hearing briefly from each of the panelists, who will have between 3 to 5 minutes each to talk about the group that they represent, the activities that they know about, and what they're thinking of doing next. We'll then move on to a group discussion based on the points that have been raised, where people will offer suggestions, in some cases offer constructive disagreement on what's being proposed. And at the same time, we'll be looking at questions that are raised by audience members. So those of you who are watching via the Google Plus interface, you'll be able to click on the Q&A button and raise some questions in there. And by the way, if you see other people who have raised questions that you like and you think should be discussed by us inside the panel, give a +1 vote to that. And finally, each person on the panel will have a brief concluding remarks in which they can put an idea in the mind of the audience for takeaway. So that's what we're going to be covering. And I'm going to start now by switching over to Avi Roy, who is in Oxford. Basically, we'll probably start from the west and move towards the east and then go back over Scandinavia as we complete our round of Europe. So, Avi, you are mute if you would like to come off mute and share your findings about your experience with the Oxford Transhumanist Association.
Awesome. Can you see the screen?
We can see your screen. Thanks.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, David, for organizing this, and thank you for making me part of the Elite 10, or the Awesome 10 here. Yeah, so I'll just briefly discuss what is or the Oxford Transhumanism and Emerging Technologies, and a brief description of how we got here and what we're doing, and then hopefully we'll have lots of Q&A time later, where we can discuss the problems and how to improve. Not just my society, of course, but everything else as well. Okay, so if, oops, sorry. So I don't know how many of you have been to Oxford, but this is what it looks like. I always find it helpful to have like an image in my mind about things that the author is describing. So
Is that the view from your bedroom, Avi?
I wish. I think that's the view from the top of the university church. Nobody sleeps there. So, well, maybe gargoyles, but that's about it. No, that's the university church just off of High Street, and you're looking into Radcliffe Camera in the north of Oxford. Somewhere up there is Anders Sandberg's house, far up north. Not too far, but so this is Oxford, and the reason why I wanted to put this picture up is several reasons. These buildings haven't changed in, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 700 years. Moving from the States to Oxford was a big shock because you would find buildings that are called, or colleges that are called New College, but was established 400 years before US was founded. So that was quite fascinating. So here's a brief description of getting started. So in Oxford, we have Nick Bostrom, David Deutsch, Anders Sandberg. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar. I hope everybody in our community is familiar. I mean, Nick Bostrom runs the Future of Humanity Institute. He's a Swedish philosopher, and he's based in University of Oxford, and he talks about existential risk, transhumanism, the anthropic principle, and etc., etc. David Deutsch is, of course, a physicist, again, based out here. He is famous for quantum computation and the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. Anders Sandberg, of course, just like the rest of them, need no introduction. I mean, he's a futurist, he's a transhumanist, he's a philosopher, he's a computational neuroscientist. So you would think that having all of these people here, these and many more, and including the Future of Humanity Institute, that there would have been, an Oxford Transhumanist Society almost along the same time when Max More was having his extropism meetings out in the States in the early 90s, but that was never the case. 2010 is when Alex Flint, a friend of mine, started Oxford Transhumanist Society. That's how long it took to get it started. That's approximately about 1,000 years after Oxford was founded, maybe a little bit more. So we started it in 2010 and rebooted it in 2013, and I'll explain why we had to do that. So evolution is a key part of what we do because of the issues that we have had in Oxford trying to get transhumanism kind of accepted and also understood by the greater community. Like I said, we have a huge amount of talent, but because we have so many talks and so many philosophers and scientists and engineers based out here, it's kind of diluted. And when we start a society called Transhumanist Society, people don't understand exactly what we're trying to do. So we started the society with speakers such as Eliezer Yudkowsky. I hope you guys know him. He's an American blogger, but very, very famously writing about friendly artificial intelligence. We hosted Kevin Warwick and Yao Pedro Magalelas. So this is where we got started in 2010, and these were topics that were near and dear to my heart, that were near and dear to Alex's heart, and we basically had a small society that was doing okay, but not really working out very well, because it would be the same group of people that would come, and we weren't really able to capture the imagination. Although I realized that with this crowd, that this is fascinating stuff, but we weren't able to really get a larger crowd. You have to realize that in Oxford, on any given evening during term times, you can attend 2 or 3 Nobel Prize winning talks, which are hosted at the same time by 5 different societies. So what we found is that we need to make people understand how these things relate to topics that are near and dear to the general populace's heart. And and we have made strides towards that end by rebooting the society and including emerging technologies. One of the key events that I think kind of transformed us was hosting a Geek Manifesto event, which I realize is not exactly transhumanism, but it is, as David pointed out, Max Moore's ideals of many philosophies. We were talking about how thinking from the point of view that Alex, myself, Thomas, the people who started the transhumanism movement here, if we think from that perspective, if we think from a techno-progressive perspective about changing things to make it better, not just from a conservation point of view, just going back to this idyllic time, then we can change things. And so we had a public event with these people in it, George Monbiot, Mark Henderson, Tracy Brown, who may not be very well known in our community of transhumanists, but are very well known in the general populace. And we had a large crowd. We have a YouTube video which is of low quality, but it's there. And we had a nice little discussion about Geek Manifesto, the way of thinking, and the way of reshaping society from our perspective. Finally, because I don't want to take any more time.
I think you've had your 5 minutes. You have to be quick.
Yep. Sorry, just one last slide. Just that was our last event, and that's it. I mean, this is where you can find us. And Riva was our last presenter, and she came all the way from San Francisco. And we have had lots of goodwill and lots of support, and we have been able to do this at very low cost. Thank you, guys.
Well, everybody's going to be wanting to know how you managed to do it at such low costs. So I guess you've got support from the university, and you can hire rooms quite easily. So that helps. But let's yeah.
No, I was just saying. I think it's speakers like yourself, the goodwill from speakers like yourself, that has helped us. University does not support us at all. So it is all the speakers. It's credit to all the speakers. They have come here from far-flung places. I mean, of course, we have lots of talent here, but you yourself, David, you came and gave a talk, and it didn't cost us anything to host you here. Well, besides the room, which was fine.
Great. Let's move on to the next panelist. I'd like to move, if possible, to Didier in Belgium, moving, as I said initially, from the west to the east. Didier is going to, you're mute just now, Didier, but if you could come off mute and tell us a bit about the activities which you know are planned for Paris in November and also in Brussels in October. Hi, Didier. You have to unmute yourself.
Yes.
Great. So maybe you.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Just for your information, I have a very slow connection. I had some kind of presentation, but it's not working. So I will improvise. Sorry that I don't speak really English, and sorry that I improvise. But okay, now I begin. My name is Didier Cornel. I'm 52 years old. I live in Brussels, Belgium. And my main interest is about everything related to longevity, but also I'm also interested in existential risk. And I'm an active member of 3 organizations for this matter today: HEALS, Healthy Life Extension Society, the International Longevity Alliance, and Technoprog, the Association Française Transhumaniste Technoprog. I will first speak about HEALS, Healthy Life Extension Society. This organization is based in Brussels, Belgium, and was created more or less 6 years ago. And like you can guess, it's about life extension, about medical progress towards life extension. And we are a group of, let's say, 10 active people and maybe a small 50 to 100 less active people. And from we have a monthly newsletter in French. We organized conferences. We take part to conferences. And our next big event will be the Euro Symposium from 1 to 3 October in Brussels. The 2 first days of this event will be with essentially with scientists, speaking about, of course, all recent discoveries and all the recent research around human longevity and the possibilities to go further. And the third day will be more specifically about activism around longevity, and also about contacts with, and we will also try to have contacts with the press. And we already managed to have 2 important people who will be there. One was a former European Commissioner for Research, Philippe Busquin, and one former Prime Minister of Belgium, Mark Eskens. Well, maybe you don't know this name, but in Belgium they are more or less well known. This is for Hills. Now a few words about. Yeah.
So just to recap, so that's an event which has got quite a lot of scientific content on the 1st and 2nd of October in Brussels, and on the 3rd day a little bit more discussion of social and activist issues.
Yes, that's that indeed.
And how does that compare with the events that Aubrey de Grey has been organising?
You mean
Jens, for example, he has a big every 2 years in Cambridge.
yeah, okay. You mean what's the
difference?
What's the difference? How can I say that? Well, I think it's quite. It's about the same goals, and but of course the sense is with more people, but less aspects concerning activism. That's
right.
Maybe the difference. Okay, but Aubrey de Grey will be one of the people who will be present in Brussels.
Great. And
okay. Now about Transvision. First, a few words about the AFT Technoproc. It's an organization, French organization, but with a few people from Belgium, from Switzerland, French-speaking. And we have also monthly meetings online, and we organize conferences in Paris mostly. And the next big event is the Transvision event in November. And here we will have, it's about transhumanism in general. And the theme for this Transvision, for this event, is about transhumanism and the social aspects related to transhumanism. There will be, we don't have the final program yet, but it will be with certainly Natasha Vitamore, James Hughes from the United States, with people well known from transhumanism in France, like Laurent Alexandre, and also with people, let's say, opposed to transhumanism. Well, opposed, it's maybe a big word, but also not only with transhumanism, but also with other people involved and interested in technological progresses, but not necessarily positive. And this event is organized by the AFT Technoproc, but also by an organization interested in technological progress, but not a transhumanist organization. And the name is Fictions. Maybe David, because you have more technical access, my connection here is very slow. You can put the URL of the Transvision event and also the URL of the Euro Symposium somewhere on the screen, so that the people can have it. Yeah,
right.
That's it. I hope it was not too confused. I know
No,
I can
that
go
was very good.
for the discussion. And I will give the precise dates because I should know it, but I know it. No, it's no, I will say it when I'm sure. Sorry.
Okay, so in fact, Mark, sorry, Didier, you're already starting to answer one of the questions which have been raised by the audience. David Orban has raised a question which I think several of us might try and answer. What's the difference between a US stream of transhumanism and a European stream of transhumanism, if any? And that's got +6 votes from the audience members, and so that's something we should give our time to address. And one of the answers is that you, in the Transvision conference in Paris, will probably have more focus on social consequences of technology, possibly the dystopian consequences, as well as the positive aspects. So let's discuss that as we move around the panel. Next, if you don't mind,
just one thing to say. So 20 to 22 November.
20th to the 22nd of November. So that's a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Great.
No, 20, 21st, and 22. 22nd. Sorry.
Thank you. Let's continue moving east. Let's go to the Netherlands. Kanaer, I know that you don't have quite such a big organization as the others have been speaking about, but I think you've got views on the distinctiveness of European transhumanism. So what would you like to share?
Well, let me mention first that the first Transvision conference, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Perfect. The first Transvision conference dated back to 1998, I believe, and was organized in the Netherlands. Since then, the situation has been disappointing and underwhelming. There used to be a Transcedo group, but as far as I'm concerned, it's effectively defunct. I know the owner, and that's one guy, and I don't see him around. The amount of transhumanism in the Netherlands and the amount of transhumanists in the Netherlands is underwhelming. Right now, I understand that there's some talk at some universities going, but from an outsider perspective, I can mention maybe 15 or so transhumanists that actively are outspoken in the community in some format. Arjen Kamphuis used to be very active, but he dropped off the radar, and his views have become not as favorable as transhumanism as he starts to become increasingly outspoken anti-American, and that's apparently a factor. A very good friend of mine, Amanda Stoel, she is running the Singularity Network at right now very close to 15,000 members on Facebook. I think the Singularity Network is gearing up to be one of the most prominent communication channels worldwide, for what it's worth. So at least that's a very visible achievement. I know that in Amsterdam, the Club of Amsterdam, under guidance of Felix, I missed his last name, but Felix is Swiss, and they're doing quite a bit of future technology and future-related items, and at a very visible level. They get a lot of government people, and Felix is an outspoken transhumanist, as far as I get the idea. And then there's Yuri van Geest. He is very closely involved with the entrepreneurial aspects of the Singularity University. We all admire him, but I think he's not involved with the community in the Netherlands as such. Like I said, the social dynamics of the Netherlands are underwhelming with regards to futurism and transhumanism. I think we have a sickness in terms of expectation about the future, and the Netherlands don't like the idea of talking about this kind of stuff, which is an enormous hurdle. Maybe I'm personally not convincing, but it just doesn't seem to work. Same goes for many people in the Netherlands who try to organize things. Either they have personal responsibilities which completely tie their hands, or like me, they don't have any money, which makes organizing anything next to impossible. So yeah, I'm sorry that we have a mixed bag from the Netherlands, so we're trying to do better, but it's difficult.
But aren't there, in the Netherlands at least, a lot of interest in things like mobile technology? And there seems to be very active people saying, well, the technology is changing our life, at least in that aspect.
Well, I have been part of the local Pirate Party for several months, active as in the national leadership. And while these are technophiles by any measure, they are, I found them to be hostile to some core ideas of transhumanism. I used the word hostile in the most cautious fashion, but I mentioned a few ideas about transhumanism, and they were either dismissive or outright, this should not be allowed, we should have laws against this kind of stuff. And again, maybe I'm not convincing enough, but I think it's a cultural thing.
Okay, well, let's see what other members of different groups have got to say, because I'm sure what you've experienced there in Holland is somehow similar to what other people have experienced too. Let's continue moving east. Let's stop in Munich now with Miriam, who can bring us up to date with actually a new organization which is just on the point of being created. This is the German Transhumanist Association. Miriam.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, if that what Kania said sounded negative, then from my experience, I would say that I found it even more positive in the Netherlands, where I was for 3 years, than in Germany. So now let's start from the beginning. So actually, we had a German Transhumanist Association in Germany, but somehow it went dormant in a kind of biostasis and basically stayed there. So after I returned to Munich about a year ago, I actually tried, to revive it or reanimate it in a way. So actually, we managed, to reboot it, because actually the German Transhumanist Association was not really dissolved formally, so we can actually restart. So we got some new members, because some of the old members actually do not have that much interest anymore, as far as I see. They are getting more involved in biostasis or cryonics organization here in Germany, whereas I don't know how it's really working, technically and from the infrastructural side, so I'm not qualified to really provide any information about that. So the German Transhumanist Association will be restructured. We have a general assembly in a couple of days, and it's actually rather international. So we also have members from other European countries outside of Germany, and actually everyone is welcome. So we also have, for example, Natasha Vitamor as a member. We also have some of you who are present here in this chat group right now also present. And generally about Germany. Germany is surely an innovative and technological advanced country. So all the statistics about Germany speak about that, especially like high-tech exports and exports of, knowledge-intensive goods and things like that. So I'm actually working a lot with these statistics, but in a way, the transhumanist spirit, if you like, or the idea of, moving beyond and getting technology too close to humans is actually met with high discomfort here in Germany. So especially considerable parts of well-educated people and intellectuals express criticism about technological progress and the emphasis on science, which I personally find quite disturbing, especially, in a country like Germany with so much potential in research, development, and innovation. So in a way, I also, tried to improve this situation, but in a way I get the impression that you can only move to a certain point here, like, conventional technology, conventional innovation in a way, but not really, going this step beyond. And this seems to be quite disappointing. So, yes?
Miriam, I'll just ask you the question that Alexander Karan has posed in the Q&A.
Yes.
Do you believe that it should be less talk and philosophizing about H+ issues and more focus on actual projects such as biohacking to actually implement the H+ goals rather than talking about the philosophy of it. And we can also.
So it's actually also not the philosophy. So philosophy is philosophy. So I don't bother about philosophy anymore for quite a while. It's really about things like biohacking and other things that are regarded with high controversy, and even in regard if it needs to be regulated and so on. For example, cyborgs are quite some issue here in the media in Germany. So there's also, you know, a Berlin club or a club association here in Berlin. They are doing projects about cyborgs, kind of biohacking and things like that. So, but they are also quite cautious in a way, you know, we don't want to create superhumans, whatever. We just want to experiment a bit about what you can do with technology, and rather cautious also in regard to their ambitions. And I'm not sure really if Germany is a really good place, you know, to experiment with unconventional ideas, at least publicly. So if you, yes.
Maybe another question to slot in here, which Hans has raised. And do you think you should be working more closely with a pirate party in Germany, for example, because they have some overlaps with some transhumanist vision? And maybe the other speakers will come to that later too.
So actually, some of our German transhumanists who were also members of the D-Trans association have actually close relationship to the pirates, and as I was still chairing the German Transhumanist Association a couple of years ago, also from the exile, the Dutch exile, I was also thinking of, you know, that this may be an idea, you know, to get a kind of political activities starting. But however, you know, the popularity of the pirates has somewhat declined, and also, you know, that the focus of topics the pirates are concerned with are actually also not broad enough, you know, to really strategically be placed as a popular party here in Germany. So the basic idea is quite good and is quite interesting, but we should need cooperation, and as far as I know, also the Pirate Party is in a kind of quarrel within.
Thanks so much, Miriam. Let's pick up these points later on, but we should continue with the introduction from the panel members. I'd now like to go to Poland, to Marcin. And now Marcin is part of an online group, more than a group that meets physically, but there's quite an active Polish transhumanist group on Facebook, which I know, Marcin, you're part of. So you are on mute just now, but if you come off, and then you can tell us about your activities and perhaps answer some of the questions that others have been addressing.
Basically, my name is Marcin Garbowski. I'm a graduate, a philosophy graduate of Catholic University in Lublin, who wrote his BA and MA on Kurzweil and Bostrom, so it's quite interesting mix. I work in a startup, so basically we started with a couple of friends from the local science fiction association. I think that most of you have had such periods in your life that you organized conventions and so on. Somehow you moved on from science fiction to sort of science speculation, where transhumanism finds its way best. So, from a very small group of enthusiasts, and we grew from, let's say, the 20 members about 2 years ago to over 500, which if you compare the various groups on the net, especially the non-Polish speaking, sorry, non-English speaking, because the English speaking ones go into the thousands sometimes. So it's quite a good result. We have quite a few discussions. We've also some science fiction writers who write in the topic of basically transhumanist themes, some even media personnel.
Marcin, I think we're having trouble with your connectivity. Maybe if we don't get a good connection in a moment.
How about now?
Let's continue. That's better. Just continue.
Okay. So basically, we didn't reach to the stage that any of you get. We're as a group of, let's say, the 100 most active members of the group, we're all scattered around the country, and Poland is not that small, and the rules to formalize a society are not that easy in Poland. So we're hoping that this meetup and that some of the inspiration given from you guys will help us sort of make the next step in our activities, because we also have some political ambitions, for instance, to make more distinct transhumanist statements, that there is to have our, let's say, press representative who will address issues which are springing up more and more often in the media, like for instance, in vitro fertilization is quite a recurring theme.
So I think we heard what you were saying. You've got some more connectivity issues. I think the existing group that you've got online is already a great start, and by all means you can get involved in some of the political and press-related activities as well. I think we look forward to hear more news about that in months ahead.
One comment. Can you hear me?
It comes and goes. I think you've got unfortunately poor connection. Is there a final comment, and then maybe we should move on to the next panelist?
You mentioned the Pirate Party, right?
Yes. Is the Pirate Party active in Poland? Is it worth forming an alignment with them?
It almost doesn't exist. But what is interesting, the only political party whose leader sort of points to aspiring basically to the stars and gives SpaceX as a good example of entrepreneurship, is a libertarian right wing that entered the European Parliament just recently. So it's interesting that the most transhumanist party currently is run by a monarchist. So
well, that's not entirely surprising in some ways. I think all the political parties will undergo change and transformation as technology becomes more clearly an issue, and each of the traditional parties will probably have a pro-transhumanist group and an anti-transhumanist group, depending on whether they're able to absorb the ideas of a further evolution. Thanks very much, Marcin. We'll come back to some of these points, but we should continue introducing the panelists. I'd like to move a little bit further east, if my geography is correct, and we'll end up in Kiev. And Anton Kulaga, welcome to the panel. What's going on in which projects are you involved in?
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here and to talk to you. So probably most of you know me more by my international activities. So I am a part of ILA board, International Longevity Alliance, and I also was one of initiators of Little Mouse crowdfunding campaign. So I came to these international activities from organizing and being involved in H+ movement. So I created an H+ movement in Kiev several years ago, and we had various events, and we participated in several TBA channel news reports. But some time ago, the community separated. After I moved mostly to international activism, probably one of the reasons was because I couldn't spend much time on local activities. But what is surprising is that after the separation of community, we had more projects and more collaboration. I want to mention that specifics of Ukraine is that there is the largest in ex-USSR institute, Gerontology Institute there. So at the moment there are several projects going on in that institute. One was Little Mouse campaign. We also founded DIY community, DIY bio community. So we have some master classes. There are I think that half of participants are transhumanists there, but we don't call it a transhumanist community. And we, after Little Mouse project, we also have, wait a moment, I will find it. We also have Little Fish project. So it's a project that we are currently working on by a DIY community, where the fish will be genetically modified to show some proteins of interest, and we will use transparent fish. And there are also some projects going on together with local pro-science organizations. And what I want to mention now is that actually now Ukraine becomes a country of opportunity, because after fail of Yanukovych regime, there was, and it is still there, the rise of citizen society, of various civil initiatives. So there are organizations that want to change the country, and they are very open to new ideas, like Nova Kraina organization, and some of members of now not existing H+ community are very active there, and it opens a lot of opportunities for lobbying and influence, because transhumanists, even those who are not involved in active organizational activities, they have some vision for the future, and in such citizen communities they often take a lead, and as politicians now, people do not trust politicians, but politicians also have to play a bit with the civil initiatives. So there are opportunities to push some useful futuristic ideas and experiment making reforms. And what I generally see is that it's not only Ukraine that is changing, but I see a shift in the whole world, that futuristic ideas, they get more exposure, and people want something new. And it may be not as radical as transhumanism, but people in many countries of the world, they are tired of left versus right struggles. So they want some fresh air, and I think that there is an opportunity for transhumanists to influence and to organize such techno-progressive initiatives. What I also see is that due to spread of communicational technologies, there are better ways now to organize. And we already tried crowdfunding, and several groups now are working on that, probably partially inspired by the success of our campaign. And now the project that I am working on is crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing means usage of a crowd to spread tasks to the crowd and collect the results. What I see in H+ community is that people who are exposed to H+ ideas but are passive, they are the majority. And one of the main problems of transhumanists is that usually H+ communities have poor management, and it is very hard to make passive people active and to utilize and leverage all those H+ crowds that are usually passive. So just about a year ago, well, actually, it is an international project, so I'm gradually shifting from opportunities in Ukraine to opportunities for the whole H+ community and longevity community. So there was a project done by Daniel Woodke, then with collaboration with the Life Extension community, in particular Joe, and with collaboration with Stanford. I was also involved there, so we managed to collect a database on longevity variance genes just by using several mentors and about 10 volunteers. And their results were merged and semi-automatically proved, and we had such database. So now I am working on making a generic system that will allow not only to collect a database on some subject, but collect information of any type and distribute tasks that will not only be about annotating articles, but that, by the way, is the most relevant for many scientific organizations, because they have their crowd, like Sense Crowd, like crowd around Bach Institute, and they want to manage it more effectively. But it will allow
Thanks, Anton.
Okay.
This is absolutely fascinating. I knew this was an overly ambitious meeting when I set it up, and it's becoming impossibly ambitious now because you've raised so many fascinating topics. Are we ready as transhumanists to give philosophical, political guidance to people who realize the limitations of existing systems? Do we have something practical to say? So let's come to that in the discussions. If I can cut you off there, simply because I'm afraid that we'll be fascinated by you for another 10 minutes at least. I would like to give a few of the remaining panelists a chance to speak as well. I'd like to move a little bit further east again to Danila in Moscow. I know Danila has been thinking hard about many of the same questions as we've been talking about in this topic already. How do we bring the right management processes to improving transhumanism? How can we make our messages relevant? Should we have a scientific projects, or should we be looking at something grander? So Danila, tell us about your activities and your thoughts from Moscow, please. You're on mute. Yeah, on now.
Thank you, Dave. Hello, everyone. Let me start by mentioning that today is the International Kitchen Day. So let me express my love for each transhumanist everywhere and for each small group that grows in such diverse places as Oxford, Poland, Ukraine, Finland, etc. But now let me get a little bit more serious, because this is a serious issue, and that's a serious topic we're discussing. I'm coming to you from the Russian transhumanist movement, which is at the moment the most powerful transhumanist organization in the world. And we see our role in the global transhumanism accordingly. And we are focused primarily on the big strategy and achieving the goals that we have, not on events and the discussions and the talk and the philosophical considerations and the social issues and so on. There is time and place for that, but that time and that place is not today and not now and not here, because the strategy is really what is important. And I have here on my table, let me show you a book which some of you may have read. That's Sun Tzu, The Art of War. And it says here on the cover that what is essential in war is victory, not prolonged operations. And also this book is incidentally signed here by Igor Strelkov. That's a Russian commander who has been fighting for 3 months in Slavyansk, in former territory of Ukraine, now in Russia. And he has been fighting successfully against a force, a regular Ukrainian army, which was at least 10, 20 times as great. And one of my friends has just traveled to Strelkov with some assistance from military assistance from Russia and volunteers. But that's not a project that we are currently involved in, even though there will definitely be a place for wars and for military campaigns in transhumanism in the future. I'm just telling about that as an illustration that transhumanism is a very serious business, and it's not really proper to keep it in the academic community just to discuss how we can have an association or a seminar or a conference. There are a lot of transhumanists in Russia. Existing polls and surveys show that every 1 in 6 people wants to live forever. And that means there are a lot of activists, lots of different projects, and there are some groups. And there are some high-profile people who very successfully publicized themselves in the international community, such as Dmitry Itzkov. There are also much more successful and interesting transhumanist activists, such as Alex Zhavrenkov or Michael Batin, or scientists such as Alexei Moskalyov. But what is key and what is most important is strategy and how to organize the transhumanist organization. So when we concentrate on projects, when we think about projects, we don't think about biohacking, even though that is interesting and that is cute, and we cooperate with Russian body modification specialists, for example, implanting Benton chips in people and doing lots of other small-scale stuff, but that is really not important. That's just fun that we're having along the way. What is important is the high-profile projects that we started and that are currently underway. One of them is, of course, the chronics company Cryrus, with a lot of potential and a lot of high-profile projects currently being planned, and a lot of potential cooperation in the medical community and elsewhere, and also international expansion plans in Asia, for example. In terms of getting our message across, we've had many accomplishments. I will just mention one, the 60-part series Program for the Future, which was broadcast on national television for the past several years, and which covered a lot of diverse issues, from how we will travel, how we will live, and up to human modification, life extension, robots, cyborgs, and so on. We also are, of course, concerned about life extension, and we have a number of projects here. The most important one is the scientific project diagram of human aging. That's the system approach to human aging, but also a number of other complementary projects. We are also working on lobbyism both in Russia and internationally, because that is something that is really important, and a lot of big players, including governments and international organizations, have resources which can potentially be directed in the right projects. But that is not the main focus. The reason I mentioned Cryros the first is that under the management of Valeria Pride, the company became operationally profitable and has been growing about 100% every year in terms of people cryopreserved. Last year, we cryopreserved more people than any cryonics company ever did, 11 people, in the 2013. And the potential and the interest is enormous. For example, the main expert on of the funeral industry in Russia is supportive of cryonics, and that is just one example. So we were awarded a golden medal at the last year Necropolis exhibition, and this year we have much more ambitious plans there. But that might become a flagship project for transhumanism in Russia, which will really move the ideas of immortality and human enhancement in the mainstream. And that was also a very successful move for us because it attracted a lot of attention of the media from the day we announced the creation of the cryonics company. And then, of course, we could piggyback on that and basically promote every other idea that we had. We also have another project. It is currently secret and in a stealth mode, but that's an advanced technology development project which may potentially solve all the issues such as lack of funding for transhumanist movement, I mean for the Russian transhumanist movement. But I don't think I have time to delve deeper into that. The approach that we take in developing our transhumanist organization is that we need to be professional and we need to use a lot of theory about how informal organizations grow, how people can succeed in their life strategies. And I mean, there are a lot of ideas in this field, but some of them are right, some of them are wrong. We're using what is really working, and that includes some of the developments by Altshuler, a famous creator of the invention theory, and but again, I don't have time to delve very deeply into that. But also things like, for example, social technology, tribal leadership, and so on. Because we want the organization to be powerful, and if we look around the world, we don't see powerful transhumanist organizations, and that means they are failing. So we are not content to stay at that level. We understand that, unfortunately, transhumanism in the near future will not be all-encompassing, everybody welcome type of movement. If it stays that way, that will drag everybody down, and that will prevent the progress which needs to happen. So it will become elitist, and it will become a somewhat discriminatory type of movement, because there are people who want to be humans studying transhumanism, and that is not what is currently in demand. So that is something everyone needs to keep in mind. We will be focused on the minority that is interested to give everything, and then of course change the world and improve the organization. We want to be victorious. We want to have a successful transhumanist organization, and I suggest everyone think about what you can do to join the Russian transhumanist movement and to be accepted. But again, I have to say that even though we welcome everyone and we like everyone and we'll cooperate with everyone, but that doesn't mean that everybody is welcome in the core, so to say, because only the strong people can move transhumanism forward at this stage and make it a powerful force, after which it will be possible to once again relax and say singularity will bring everything to you, you don't need to do anything. But that moment has not yet occurred. So anyone who wants to be involved in transhumanism in 2014 needs to understand that it is really it can be the only thing that the person is doing. There can be no hobby transhumanism at this moment. So,
well, Danila, that's a whole bunch of fascinating things. I think we need to give more than 10 minutes to you.
All that I wanted to say. So, thank you for your attention.
Well, I mean, there's a whole bunch of questions that arise. I hope, by the way, that there will be an opportunity for you or others from your organization to speak at the event in Paris in Transvision. I think some of what you've said there deserves to be heard more widely, but also it's something to be discussed inside transhumanist groups as well as being shared publicly. And I guess my question to you is this: the methods which have made the Russian transhumanist movement relatively powerful in Russia, could they be adopted by groups elsewhere in Europe, or does the different social culture in these other European countries mean that we need to tread differently? And after all, I believe that Putin, the Russian president, attended at least part of the global forum for 2045 when it was held in Moscow. I can't imagine many other presidents of the national political parties.
He wasn't.
He wasn't. That was a misunderstanding. All right, well, I'm sorry about that. I'm just reading some things popping up in my peripheral vision. But anyway, the question is, are the methods of Russian transhumanism, which have made it relatively powerful, could these be adopted by other groups elsewhere in Europe too, or should a different approach be taken?
The factors that made Russian transhumanist movement and transhumanism in Russia in general successful cannot be adopted, because that's just the attitude of people in Russia and the potential interest towards transhumanism. However, the methods that we are using to continue this growth can definitely be used elsewhere. But it's not really a question of transferring the competences. It's really a question of, because you can't really borrow that. It's a question of value choices and strategic choices, and once you do that, for example, once you do that, you will abandon the nation or the local focus. And I'm not saying that transhumanists, you included, are focused on the national borders and so on, but that's the way things happen, because we are humans and we have bodies, and we focus on our immediate surroundings. But we need to look at the bigger picture, and we see our organization already a global organization. So it's not really a question of transferring the competence from Russia to, let's say, Sweden or France or Venezuela. It's a question of growing transhumanism globally using the best growth points and successful practices together.
Well, let's come back to some of these points in a different meeting, possibly in a few weeks' time, when we can dig more deeply into some of the areas. Let's move on, however, in the meantime, to the next panelist. Let's move back in the westerly direction. Let's stop off in Helsinki, and Radar Vasinius is going to talk a little bit about what he's been up to. Radar, over to you.
Hello there, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes. People with brains.
Yes, fantastic. That's you. This is specifically for you. I'm really glad to be here. I haven't really been active in this particular community in Finland. One of the reasons being that the transhumanism organization in Finland has been down for about 2 years now. There really haven't been any activities. I personally have been very interested in this area due to my areas of study and also work for actually 20 years. I lived in Los Angeles in '91, and that's when I picked up the very first book, Are You a Transhuman by FM 2030. And I've been studying computer technology, but from the computer side, I've moved over to the human side. So instead of continuing to study computer science and develop artificial intelligence, which was my first choice at the Helsinki University of Technology, I've been working in brain training for quite a few years. So what I've been doing is really making a living as an entrepreneur for quite a few years now, as a personal brainer, if you will. I'm also working as a voice So you can hear me if you call Finnish phone numbers or dial a phone within Finland and the line is occupied. Or if you travel on Finnish trains, you will hear my voice as of this June. And unfortunately, it's also been digitized in a number of languages, so it is possible that Terminator sometime in the future, it's possible that they have my voice. I'm sorry for that as well. What I'm doing really is helping people with brains. In other words, all 7 billion potentially, hopefully, possible in the future, to really understand what can and should be done in this lifetime to prepare for a future. And I've used intentionally the word future in the plural, futures. Clearly, there will be very different paths that individuals will be taking, and entire societies will be taking. Having seen the film Transcendence, no, don't start spanking me now, I won't give any spoilers. I once again realized that that's one of the paths that I'm not working along. I'm helping people right now in the here and now to evolve as human beings, and we actually did have a seminar, despite the fact that there isn't a transhuman. Man and Machine was one of our workshop/seminar, and I was very happy with the outcome, where we were discussing really how to prepare for there. And the take that we have, me and my colleagues in our company, is that really these are the kind of cognitive skills that, you know, we all have. They are innate. We're born with them, in other words. We can create some new patterns. We do interact, so we affect people and are affected by them. We store things in our neural networks. We make decisions, and sometimes we can stick to them, so we have determination and motivation. We also are able to focus our attention, but not just go deeply into something, but detach, in other words, relax. And of course, we have senses that work. So in these 8 sectors, there are very tangible, concrete ways in which people can develop themselves as human beings. So we're talking about cognitive training. This is a fairly well-established area. The Romans and Greeks had memory techniques. There are focusing techniques, even further east than we just were in particular, etc. So this is what we're working on: cognitive skills established in cognitive psychology and the cognitive sciences. But moving beyond that, of course, which is really the first bullet on my last slide here, some of the things that we've been discussing in various ways and which do have all kinds of sporting but also military applications is really that if you're able to heighten your threshold for pain, of course you are immensely increasing the probability that you will in any way be able to interface yourself with any kind of electronics, or even utilize it as an environment or casing for whatever portion of your body you might be using for more than 100 years. We recently had RoboCop, the movie. There was less meat in that movie being preserved in the metal casing than in the 80s version of RoboCop. And then, of course, there are a number of other science fiction stories where this becomes very, very important. Since you never know if you are actually in a more radical way being inserted in some kind of life support machinery, a robot, a casing, or something like that, there's no guarantee for how long you will need to be there by yourself or alone. It's of course incredibly important that you are able to confront fears and anxieties, which are closely related with the third bullet. You need to be able to be alone with your own thoughts, potentially weeks, months, years, without going crazy. And I have an interesting link on my next slide, actually, which is a fresh article that just came out. And of course, on a more soft core level, just learning to control devices with the kind of headsets that are commercially available today. You can learn to control prosthetics, both where limbs that allow you to gain movement or move devices, gadgets, cars, toy helicopters with your mind in your surroundings, but also to input, to get impulses from artificial sensory organs of the traditional kind, or even extending your sensory range. So this is just a very brief list. We were discussing with David that we have 4 minutes, and I've already exceeded that. Love talking about all of this, as you can note, even for hours, and I have lots of slides, materials, and examples. But I wanted to give you guys in this first call, I do look forward to more calls in the future, a flavor of the kind of things that is going on here, and around which I personally will be building activities. And this is just a very interesting article, also echoing some of the thoughts that you guys were already mentioning. Are people really capable or willing to think, be alone by themselves with their thoughts? If the answer is no, that's very scary for the world as we see it today, not to mention potentially what's going to happen in the future. And as you can see, this is a very fresh article. People prefer jolts of pain to being alone with their own thoughts. So I think we all in our respective countries have a lot to do, and there is geopolitical tension in countries even with our regions. But if we can transcend that, let's begin by transcending those kind of political and military things, then I think there is hope for the rest of humanity as well. So, you know, I love to network with you guys, continue developing all of this together with you from Finland. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Radar, and I like the emphasis on enhancing the mind and the capacities of thinking to complement some of the emphasis that previous speakers have put on enhancing longevity and enhancing health. I have to say that some of the activities in the London Futurist movement, which I chair, that have caused greatest interest have been talks on enhancing our mental thinking capacities, perhaps by using headsets. And we have a meeting lined up, I think it's the 2nd of August, when we'll have a bunch of panelists talking about various ways, including traditional meditation techniques, but also more modern approaches with quantified self and even transcranial magnetic stimulation and so on, to improve our cognitive skills. So I think this is a strand which transhumanists can be thought leaders in and help to guide people in an interesting way. So thanks for that. Now, last but not least, I'd like to come to Sweden, to Hans. So one reason he's last is he's one of the reasons why this whole call got going. He has been taking some time off from his other activities over the last few months to make a lot of networking amongst different groups of transhumanists in Europe. So Hans, I'd like to hear a bit about what you've been up to, what's been going on in Sweden, some of the other groups you've seen. And we ought to try also to turn to the questions that have been raised by the audience. And some of them are really deep and thoughtful questions that will probably require a whole hour or two to answer, but at least we will start to dip into some of them in the time that's left. Hans.
Okay, thanks. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, slightly quiet, but let's keep going.
Okay, so just...
No sound here.
Okay.
I can hear, yeah.
I'll go slowly, hopefully it'll catch up with you guys.
Beginning to hear, still very weak.
I'll just start with a couple of words about myself. I'd like to say I'm quite a lot out and speaking about transhumanism and singularity and related matters. And I always like to start with saying that I was born the year 69 before the singularity. That is a fun start, and it usually gets people thinking. I'm a business graduate. I've worked in business for the last 10 years. And besides being the chairman of the Swedish Transhumanist Association called Människa Plus, I'm also the ambassador for Singularity University here in Sweden. I studied at Singularity University in 2010. And I've been quite active in that network ever since. And in fact, what led me to Singularity University in the first place was really my transhumanist worldviews. So that's how I ended up there in the first place. Now, what's up in Sweden? Well, the Swedish transhumanists were very active, sort of late 90s, around the end of the millennium. Had a big Transvision conference in '98, and then slowly it faded out in the early years of the 2000s. And some key members quit, and some moved abroad, and so forth. But in 2010, the organization was refounded, and it has since grown vigorously, I'd say. And it's really a new generation. It's a young crowd. People are in their 20s and in their 30s, and the participants are really diverse as well. It's fun. It's not just the standard brainiac persons, but we get sort of sci-fi reading, Star Trek geek persons, but we have people from the LBGT communities. We have people who are sort of just into fitness. We have people who come from a business side and just want to pick up ideas from us and see what can be done in terms of business. So we always have a lot of very interesting interaction between very diverse people when we have our meetings. And I perceive that these questions that we deal with, transhumanism, sort of aging, the race of AI, and so forth, this is already very much part of the mainstream public debate in Sweden. And so the time is ripe for us just to be part of this conversation. The Swedish transhumanists, we're just sort of one player in this ecosystem. And
so you have a similarity with Russia more than with what we heard from Germany and Holland, that there is an openness in at least some of the population there to embrace some of these ideas and run with them.
Yeah, I feel that Sweden is, as most of you know Sweden to some part, but Sweden is a very non-traditional society, and Swedes they don't know much about their history, and that means that they are quite open to new things, new trends, and new technology, and they don't have much of an issue with a lot of things that may be quite controversial in other countries. So, and what we're trying to do in terms of what I want to do with this association is that we focus on we have a very active high-tech startup community here in Stockholm and Sweden, and this at the same time, sort of the politicians that I meet, they don't understand anything, and therefore my idea is really just to bypass the entire political system, and the guys we want to deal with and inspire is really the startup crowd, the tech savvy, I mean, people who are actually creating change themselves and not just going to seminars. And yeah, so that is sort of my focus and target group that I'm looking at.
So there's a general principle here which applies for marketing any technology product, which is you don't try and pitch the product to the whole of the population at once. You pick the people who are more likely to see its good features and to benefit from them. And so you have decided to bypass some of the politicians and reach out to the startup scene, and that may be a good move elsewhere too.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, ultimately, what we're after is impact, right? We can have a lot of seminars and speakers evenings and pub nights, but what I'm after is impact. And I'd just like to mention a couple of initiatives that we're running. Besides having a rather active Facebook group and having sort of we have weekly meetups that get about 10, 20, 30 people here in Stockholm. But what I'm interested in is, or sorry, what I'd like to say is that we have, at the moment, we have sort of two specific projects that we've set up as under the Humanity Plus Sweden umbrella that we want to run just to create impact. And one of them is that we are actively establishing a Swedish version of the Longevity Alliance. We call it the Swedish Life Extension Society. And we want this, just like Människa Plus, to be a sort of a formal registered society where people can become members, and that is not just a network of people, but actually a formal player, just to give us credibility when we interact with sponsors or anyone who we want to influence. But what I'm most excited about at the moment is that we're setting up a proper biohacking space in Stockholm. Maybe a surprise to you guys that we haven't had one yet. I know, in both Germany and in France and in UK, you've had these places for some time. But this summer we are formalizing this as well. I have a great team of people who are very keen to make this happen, and we want to create a space where people can come and sort of extract their own DNA, where people can come and learn about devices and try devices and very basic implants. So it's really the impact with that project is no less than we want to put more cyborgs on the streets of Sweden. Very specifically, just make change happen. We don't care if what the politicians say. The best publicity would be if the police would raid us and arrest a few of us. Then that, like what happened to the Pirate Bay guys. So we're willing to open ourselves to. Well, maybe I should say that in a public forum like this, but we're open to trying new things.
We're open to trying new things. We're open to pushing boundaries and getting people out of their comfort zone. If we follow what Radar recommended, we'll have more tolerance for being out of our comfort zone anyway, so we'll be able to do more powerful things, perhaps.
Indeed. And just so to wrap up, really, what I hope to get from this call is sort of a concrete discussion between all of us. How do we sort of strengthen this network across Europe? How do we, especially in the white spots, how do we get inspired by what others do? Because I have to say I agree with Daniela. At the moment, we are failing because we are not as strong as we really should be in this day and age when so many things are going our way. But this is a good step. I hope to continue this conversation with all of you, and I'm very excited that this meeting is happening. Thanks to you, David.
Well, thanks to everyone. We've spent quite a long time already on this discussion, but I would like to run it a little bit longer. I'd like to come to a couple of the questions that have been raised. I'll pick out some of the ones with the highest number of votes. We don't need to answer all the questions from every panelist, but if you've got strong views, then speak up. And the first question I want to look at is the one from David Orban, who asks about do we see our groups having any possibility to take advantage of the Horizon 2020, which is this EU funding framework for research and innovation. The EU government processes are sometimes a bit murky and slow and awkward to work with, but potentially if we could get this going well, there's a lot we could do. So does anybody have strong views as to whether that should be a priority for us or not? Speak up, Kania.
Yes, the Netherlands is a kind of country, and it probably is in a particular way is the same in other countries. But for the Netherlands, it's the kind of people that are transhumanists are not likely either. They're either like the Yuri van Geest-like entrepreneurial type, working closely with the Singularity University and making tons of money, and they are doing their own entrepreneurial thing, which is great, of course. And then there is an eccentric type of person. I think I might conjecture that half this panel is that type, which have strong ego values, strong ambitions, are dreamers, and they're not likely to be the kind of people that have lots of fun. So if there is an opportunity to seduce the EU framework Horizon 2020 program for funding anything of relevance, definitely I would really like to tap that potential. Desperately so, yes.
And does anyone know if that's a practical thing that's worth doing? Yes, and Miriam? Miriam, did I see you put your hand up?
So, yes, I've been involved in the FP7. I'm also partially indirectly involved in some issues related to Horizon 2020, and I know of experience things like, that may be supportive for our cause can be placed, but, only indirectly. Like if you look at, say, the FET flagship initiative, the Human Brain project that won this FET flagship initiative, and I think I'm also partially a bit guilty for that, I guess. So I think indirectly it is possible, and it's a good idea to place some, topic, some research development, if you want to do something on nanotechnology, on AI, maybe even on biogerontology. So some of the people I know, I don't want to tell names right now, are actually involved in some EU projects, but I think you cannot really do it under the transhumanist label, and you need to scale it down and disguise it in a wise manner. But getting funds is possible if you disguise it in the correct way.
Well, maybe the word present is better than disguise. Danila?
I just want to share a small success story about the project that Misha Batin managed to do. He spent a considerable amount of money and time writing grant applications, and he had a small team of people doing that. And in the end, that investment paid off because he was awarded government mega grant, $5 million for Paolo Macchiarini work in Russia, in Krasnodar, on growing lungs and other respiratory organs. But one thing to consider here is that overall, if you count how much money was spent on writing the grant applications, the net result is not that significant, even though they had a number of other grants awarded. So unless you have money to put into this project, or unless you have people with experience and they are motivated and interested to do that, then please don't treat the money that other people or organizations have as your money. It's not your money, it's their money. It's the money of the European Union, and they're not going to give it to you just because you have a good project. So just some realism here, some reality check. But of course, if one can get sufficient resources to start, then government or intergovernment funding can be an interesting source.
Anton, do you have views on this?
Yeah, at first I want to thank you, David, for making this hangout, because it is a step forward to joining forces, because we, as ILA, we tried cost grant proposals. It's European grant for networking among different topics like medicine, biology, and so on. So we had 2 applications, and we came with one of them came to the final, but after that we failed. And then some other interesting proposals came up, and what I see now is that some related to transhumanist topics are in mainstream, and things like biogerontology, aging research are among those horizon topics. And we were approached by several people, and they asked us if it is possible to make a European longevity network and try to apply for larger proposals where millions and millions of euros are involved. And the problem is that we got to know about some competing groups. So as there is money in aging research right now, so some commercial companies try to get this grant. So there are consortiums of 10 and more companies, and they have at least one person who devotes half or full time of his work to writing this or that grant proposal. So if we want to get these grants, and if we don't want this money to be spent on some strange stuff like automated wheelchairs or other not that useful stuff that are usually proposed by only companies that want to get money and don't care about curing aging or achieving any other H+ goals. So we have to join forces. We have to make longevity and nanotechnology network, and we have to write those grants and have persons who will devote a lot of time on that. Oh, sorry.
That's great. It's my fault. I can speak now. Thanks so much for all of these comments on this question. We are out of the allocated time, so I'm going to just ask everybody to address in their closing remarks a couple of points. First of all, we're going to look at the question which has the biggest number of votes, which was raised by Lena. I'm afraid it's written in Cyrillic, so I probably don't know how to pronounce that word. But the question is addressed to Danila, but all of us can answer it. Which skills do transhumanists most need to be successful, in your opinion? Given all that we've heard, what are the skills that we need to break through to the next level? So I'm going to ask all the panelists to discuss that or any other final remarks that have come to their mind in the course of the preceding 90 minutes. And we'll go in the same order as at the beginning of the event. In other words, we'll start back in Oxford with Avi, and we'll move east and then west again. So closing remarks, Avi.
Hi, yeah, thank you everyone again. This was very insightful to hear all the projects that are going on all over the place in the European Union and further along. This is really interesting. So what I learned, or what I got out of this meeting, is what I wanted, which is collaboration. Oxford has its strengths, as I showed, or I spoke about earlier, but it has tremendous amounts of weaknesses because of it being so old and situated in a different place. And that comes on to the question about what must we have to be successful as a transhumanist or as a person or whatever. And I have come to the conclusion, maybe it's because I'm a PhD student, is that I think success is probably best achieved through collaboration in any group. And in this case, as transhumanists, we want to see the world being a better place through a certain method or certain series of methods or steps or whatever, and it cannot be done without collaboration. So I invite everybody listening and everybody on the panel and everyone else who will listen in the future to contact us, contact me at least, if other people don't want to be spammed, and we can together work on finding methods to collaborate and to efficiently move forward each and every one of the goals that we have through transhumanistic methods, whatever that may be. So anti-aging, planetary boundaries, environmental causes, any of those or all of those. And we can collaborate together to find solutions for those quicker. That's all.
Thanks very much. So you're recommending the skills of collaboration, which is a very hard skill in my practical experience in the mobile industry. It's a skill that has many aspects to it, but we need to become better indeed. Didier, what are your views on the final topics?
Yes, yeah, since I wasn't speaking a lot, I will slightly go further than 60 seconds, I'm afraid, but okay, I will try. First, I want really to thank you, David, to organizing, that you organized this. It's really great, and I want really to hope that it's not the last meeting like this, and also to say that it's very important that that some of you will be in Paris for Transvision and also in Brussels for the Euro Symposium. Now, concerning the content of your question and also general, what skills do you want? I don't know precisely what skill, but what I want to say is there is really a common point for all transhumanists. It's that we are in favor of life extension, and it's also for life extension that we have the most chance to be successful and the most chance to convince people that it's important. So, well, of course, that's also my main interest, but really, I think that it is through life extension that we can progress. That's the first aspect. I want also to say that it's important that to have a collective vision, and the question of equality is an important one. And I must say that I'm a little bit afraid when, well, it's what Daniela was saying is very interesting. But we have to be careful not to be too elitist because because it will turn against us. And about the Russian situation, I'm really very curious because Russia is probably the only country in the world, or also with some sub-Saharan countries, but still the only country in the world where the life expectancy of people, especially the life expectancy of men, is going down. So it's one of the few countries where technological progress is bad for the for people in some kind of way. You could see that, and it's one of the countries where the transhumanism is the most popular. So it's really, it would be very interesting to speak about that longer, but we don't have time.
Well, we'll make time for it in another meeting, I think.
Another
Let's
meeting.
be sure to come back to the Russian model of transhumanism and how that might be modified and built and adapted more widely. As well as the Swedish model for transhumanism. That was a success too. So let's say.
I want to say one last sentence. Is we were speaking a lot about many interesting things, but we were not speaking about the risk related to technological progress, and I think it's also very important. It was we were speaking about this more than enough during the event in London 2025, but here not enough. But once again, we don't have time enough, and thank you for organizing this, and I'm sure it will not be the last one. Thank you.
Many thanks, Didier. So amongst other things, you think we need to become better at portraying a vision of how we can get to a more equal society despite some of the struggles we will likely to face along the way. Kanea, what's your answers to these final questions?
Let's be brief. To be active in transhumanism and to have any relevance in the world stage, I think its passion is the first thing, so you have to feel it really in your heart. I recommend that anyone who is entering transhumanism has a good look at the corpus of ideas, the old transhumanist ideas, especially the ones established in the old extropy list in the 1990s. And if you want to be credible in this world, a few academic titles seriously do not hurt. I think to be a public spokesperson, either you need something special, or you need at least 3 or 4 academic titles and money, like the proven ability to make money. That's being taken serious in this world. As an additional comment, and I'll keep it very brief, some people call me a dystopian fetishist, but I think we should not close our eyes as transhumanists to the mess we're in this world. You can go left or right politically, but I think things are going seriously wrong in many ways, and everyone will have their preference on how it's going wrong, sometimes contradictory. We, transhumanism, cannot afford to operate in a vacuum chamber of our own conceptions, ideas, and utopian hopes and fears, but I think we should adapt to what's happening, and what's happening is not very encouraging.
Thanks. So these are votes for passion, for academic credibility or other credibility to get our views taken seriously in academia, and you're sharing with Didier the view that we need to improve our risk awareness and have a good understanding of risks, not a naive adoption of technology. Let's move to Miriam.
First of all, thanks for the invite. It was a very inspirational evening, so I didn't have such an inspirational evening for quite some time. So now, in regard to the question, I think you need to be daring as a transhumanist. You need to be financially independent, and you need to be independent in any way. You need to be able, not to be bound by say any employers, not to be bound by anyone telling you to behave in a politically correct way or whatever, and what I'm saying now is politically incorrect in Germany. So I think you have to have the means, you know, to speak your mind, to speak your opinion, to educate people, and to be really daring and really try to change things, not only trying to change things, really do the change, and therefore you need to be financially independent. So I think, at least for me, this would be the most important thing to get forward.
Great. So to be daring and to have independence, which includes being financially independent. I think that's something that's affecting many groups around the world. They need to have that independence of finance. Let's move next to Marcin.
Okay. So I'd also like to thank you for a very inspirational and vivid discussion. I think that, well, it's very important to be determined and well organized, because we have a bunch of people who would like to act, but we simply didn't have the determination to get more efficiently. I hope this meeting will help me and a number of our group members who are listening to this conversation on the stream. So we will start more grassroots, and we will aspire to be as great as the powerful Russians and the Swedes.
Great. Well, let's improve our organization indeed. Let's figure out how we can make all this well-motivated, inspired people fit together in projects that will make a difference. And organizational skills includes politics, it includes other kind of issues as well, setting goals, making roadmaps, figuring out what's possible in the short term, and then what can be done in the longer term.
Yeah. One just a small comment to what was said by, I think, a person from Belgium or from the Netherlands, that I think that we should focus on the sort of the really human aspect of transhumanism. That the environment is obviously important, but if we don't care for technological progress, and destroy ourselves, then the environment will survive us. Earth will survive us. We need to focus on our future and not the planet's future, because the planet endured many worse things than people. So we have to think of.
Absolutely. Anton, what's your final comments?
Well, there is a saying in Ukrainians, and wherever there are two Ukrainians, there are three hetmans, or three kings, if we will apply it for Europeans. So it also works for transhumanists, because now some transhuman ideas, they become mainstream. And in order to use this opportunity, we have to join forces. We have to create a strategy. We have to have shared goals. We have to forget about our conflicts, our problems. We have to learn, because our domain is very complex. It involves many technologies, and the more complexities, the more technologies are involved, the more complex management becomes, and the more things we all have to learn. And I am grateful that you created this European H+ meeting, because it is one of the steps of exchanging our minds that will probably help us to join forces and pursue our H+ goals.
We'll discuss shortly how we can continue this and what we should focus on in future meetings. I'm open to suggestions, either from people obviously in the panel or people watching this video afterwards or watching on the Google+, what you think should be the focus of future such meetings. Let's move to Danila. Lots of questions for you to try and answer in a short time.
Okay, first, the answer of which skills are most valuable is, of course, context sensitive. So I would suggest that anyone who really needs an answer work with a coach. You can ask me for help if you trust me and want that. And then only then can a context sensitive answer be given. But the basic things to start in terms of qualities would all be related to values, and that is because without the right control over your values, you can't make the right decisions, and you can't have the decision-making process and the efficiency. And in terms of values, there are several works, several books I can recommend, and ask me for a link privately afterwards if you want to. If I were to simplify it to fit in this short time, is realize that money and traditional social institutes do not matter in the long run. So if you want to outrun well, everybody else, essentially, you need to change your values. Don't worry about financial independence. Try to find a third solution. Not working for employer, not being financially independent, but something else. And then, of course, everybody said about collaboration in some form, but it is impossible for people to collaborate if they do not share same values about the process. We all share values about our ultimate goal, but unfortunately, that doesn't help us a tiny bit. We need to enjoy the same type of activities. We need to enjoy the same drinks, same stupid activities, smart activities, in order to fit together and to be able and to enjoy collaboration. Otherwise, it just doesn't work, and we've had tens of years of the transhumanist community to see that. So, in a sense, a successful individualist drops his individualism and realizes that there is a bigger opportunity in being part of something great. And it's simple to say, but it's extremely difficult, and there is a lot of context here, but I believe that this is a strategy which can be replicated and can help many people. So that is my suggestion. And also, David, you asked me to give a comment on funding. So my suggestion to everyone about skills: learn to keep track of birthdays of multi-billionaires who want to live forever. Because today is not just a kissing day, but one guy is turned 74 years old today, who has tens, maybe hundreds of billions of dollars of wealth, and he said several times publicly that he wants to defeat aging and live forever. And I hope that everyone did not forget to send him a birthday card and just remind about your existence and offer your services. And that is something that can have a potentially very high pay back for a very small effort on your part. So that's practical advice.
Practical advice, but also I really like the emphasis on finding coaches that we can help to coach each other, because we've got mixes of skills, and we could help each other in that aspect. And I liked also the emphasis on values, not just ultimate values, but values for what we should be doing in the shorter term too. So there's a lot of scope for some philosophy in there as well as some activism. Let's move on to Radar for final words from Helsinki.
Thank you very much for this call. A lot of important things have been said. I agree with most of them. On the top of my mind are communication skills. We all, each one of us, needs to choose a very specific area in which we are able to be experts, credible experts, and communicate very clearly some interesting and valuable things for people to hear, which also help them in this life, here and now, and then help them build an increasingly good life, which is increasingly long. But how to crystallize this, I see as the key here. We are, and I am in the media in Finland almost on a weekly basis, not in the summer now with this summer beard, but typically. And I will be working continuously just purely on brains, and I warmly recommend this. We all make our own decisions, but I think the clarity of communication and brevity is the most important thing.
Thanks for being clear, and thanks for being brief. That's a great lesson for all of us. Hans, final words from you.
Unmute yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, just going to unmute. So what I just wanted to say, two things really. We have focus on projects that create impact. That's what matters. Do things and see where you can make an impact and really make a difference. Focus on these things. I mean, we can have pub nights for the coming 10 years, and we will just, we will have discussed these ideas over and over again. But find doers and bring them into your organization. Find entrepreneurs, inspire them to go for the visions that you help them develop. That's my idea. And another more specific advice, I mean, a very, very simple thing to do is, I think we should have Facebook groups for every country. So there should be a Humanity Plus Belgium Facebook group. There should be a Humanity Plus Luxembourg Facebook group. It's so simple because people search for us, and you just find a lot of people out of nowhere just gather to these groups. And it's so simple to do, and you really get a lot of people going. And this is how we got Norway flying a few months ago. At the moment, we're just doing this in Denmark. And I hope to be able to have a Danish Transhumanist Association being formed in the not too distant future as well. So thanks everyone for listening, and it's been great chatting with you.
Great. So let's focus on the projects that will make a difference. That's what strategy is all about. It's not just about wishful thinking. It's about finding out where are our strengths and finding out where our strengths will have the biggest difference in the world. Plenty more questions left, but let's continue with these questions offline, but also in another meeting, which I'll try and schedule for, say, 6 weeks' time. Thanks to everybody for listening, and wish everybody a fantastic transhumanist future. Goodbye.